Happy birthday, Mud. My love affair with Mud is not a secret. I have been obsessing about their beautiful colours, collecting their exquisite porcelain since I first discovered them in Sydney in 1999. They're turning 30, and to celebrate, I have elevated my regular birthday cake into something really special. This is the essential chocolate cake you need in your life. Fluffy, light, yet still rich chocolate cake, and a crème fraîche buttercream, which has all of the nostalgia of buttercream with that added adult tang of crème fraîche. Basic rules of Bake Club apply here. Before you start baking anything ever, first thing you do is put on your oven, second thing is prepare your tins. I'm making a 2-layer cake. So I've got my 2 cake tins with removable bottoms. They're your best friend. The way I'm going to do this is you can have those very handy cake circles, which I used to have, but I seem to have run out of. This is my way of getting a perfect circle. There's a number of different ways, but this is the way I like to do it. So I tuck the paper underneath the removable base, and then I simply do this. There's my round. Now, I'd love to know how you do it. I'm sure you also have a super efficient way, but that's mine. Butter. Now, however much I love an iced celebration cake, I prefer to make what I call a naked-sided cake. The only caveat with that is that the sides of your cake really come out of the tin well. You don't want any crumbly edges. Really liberally buttering my tin here, because that is what's going to give me perfect sides, and line it. Tins are prepped. Let's get baking. While this cake has all the nostalgic qualities of those fluffy sour cream chocolate cakes we had as a child, I have made this a little bit more chocolatey because I am adding chocolate. This is not simply cocoa based, there is some chocolate. So here I've got 85 grams of Pump Street Calettes. This is 70%, 72% actually, but you can use 70. And I'm going to add 50 grams of cocoa. I'm going to add a cup of 250 ml, freshly brewed, very hot coffee. Just give it all a little bit of a stir. So the chocolate and the cocoa melt together. And this is going to be the chocolate base for the cake. Okay, the coffee is going to enhance the chocolate flavor here, make it even more intense and unctuous. And that's all mixed and melted. We're going to put this aside and make the cake. Take 210 grams of flour. To our flour, we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. This is, you know, a very dairy-rich cake. The raising agents are important. Half a teaspoon of salt. Going to give this a little stir. We're going to have 300 grams of sugar, 50 grams of dark brown muscovado. Okay, 2 eggs, 125 ml sunflower oil. I'm going to keep it slightly lighter today with this oil because we have a lovely buttercream going on top. Whisk and give these a good old stir together. You can see the flecks of brown sugar, but all the lumps are out and it's lovely and smooth. Vanilla, a good 1.5 teaspoons, 120 grams of sour cream. Chocolate time. Give it one last stir. Gonna add it in. Now this is quite a wet cake mixture, so do not worry. It's actually why I really like to make it in a bowl with a spout. It just makes the pouring into the dish, into the baking tins, much, much easier. Almost done, guys. Tip the flour in while we're whisking. Remember, whisk in one direction only. Don't go that and then that and then that. When you're adding dry ingredients to wet, ensures no lump. There's a lot of raising agent in this cake and you can see the bubbles are already beginning to form on the surface. So you want to act quickly here. So here are our prepared tins. So you could measure them, but eyeballing should be good enough. You just want to try as even as possible. In fact, I'm going to take a tiny bit out of this one and put it in there. Now they're even. Right, final thing, you don't want air bubbles. Quick bang. There you go, flattens the top. Going to pop them in the oven, 180, 40 minutes. They'll be done, ready to cool, ready to ice. The secret to buttercream is in the whisking, and it's whisking enough and making sure all your ingredients are at room temperature to start with. This is enough buttercream, ice the center, the top and the sides of a 2-layer cake. I don't always ice the sides, but I have a bit of a fear of running out of icing, so I always make a bit more than I need. We have 400 grams of butter. This is very soft because my kitchen is very hot today. We want to get the butter nice and starting to be whipped. Really important the crème fraîche is also at room temperature. A bit like when you make a cream cheese icing, because otherwise it doesn't quite mix with the butter. So this is 200 grams of crème fraîche. And we're going to get those all emulsified together. I'm going to scrape the sides. I do not want any lumps of butter left at the bottom before I add the sugar. That is frothy enough. To this, 400 grams of sugar. Then you're going to taste it and decide if you want to add a little bit more sugar. I tend to not like it quite so sweet, but it's up to you. So I'm going to add a little bit at a time. because it's going to go all over the place. We're going to add vanilla. I like to use a vanilla bean paste in an icing because you see the actual beany bits, you know, details. I also added a pinch of salt. I love to put a layer of seasonal jam, just for fun, as a little surprise for people. Current obsession is figs. Cakes are cooled, so I'm going to put a thin layer of fig jam before I ice my cake. This is not a very sweet jam, actually. Because I'm exposing the sides of this cake, I want to make sure it doesn't go all the way to the edge so it doesn't seep out. It is a surprise in the middle, don't forget. Got my very whipped, fluffy icing here. I definitely am not a piping queen. A good amount of icing in the middle. I am going to use my scoop to kind of help me get it on and squidge it to the edges. And remember, we're putting another layer on top here. Because this is a crème fraîche buttercream, it is softer than a slightly more traditional, but I think it's much more delicious and it's worth it. So I'm going to carefully ease it to the edge. So we're just going to try and keep it within the boundaries as much as we can, and we'll get ready for the second layer. Now for the fun bit, getting layer number 2 on top of layer number 1. Use the palm of my hands to carefully ease it. Round 2. Let's get the top layer of cake on. We could stop here. Icing looks great, nice and even, a few little curls around the outside, isn't it pretty? But I want to do a central swirl because that will hold either the sprinkles or the grated chocolate or the crushed Maltesers or the flowers or the blackberries, whatever it is that I'm choosing to put on the top of my cake at any time. I take a little smidge more icing in the middle, and I just take my palette knife and I spread it round, and then I run it round. It's going to give me this perfect little set of curls. I'm just going to lightly decorate this. For me, simple is always best. Because there's fig jam, I'm going to add a little indication that that's what's going on here. Because these blackberries are so plump and gorgeous and in season, I'm also going to add a couple of those. And there it is. Happy birthday, Mud.